Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And today we're going to be talking about we never argued.
Nope, not once.
Never ever. Well, sometimes we could be in a situation or a relationship with somebody where everything just flows so well, where there's very little complaining or disagreements, and it just doesn't lead to any arguing. And while in many ways this can be great and wonderful, it doesn't always mean that it is great and wonderful, and that there can be things going on in the background that you're unaware of. And so we're going to talk about some of these things today because, sometimes people are shocked that somebody would leave them when there just wasn't even any arguing or seemingly any problems.
Mm-hmm. So you thought everything was going great and you never would have expected a breakup. Seems to have come out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And these are normally the breakups where one person is blindsided completely. So we want to start out by saying that just because you never argued doesn't mean that you never will. So this might be the very first conflict, the one that led to the breakup. So we want you to consider that, because oftentimes we get in this mindset of, well, we haven't ever before. It's because we deal with conflict pretty well, but then a conflict that is hard to deal with pops up, and then you realize this is going to be the breaking point of our relationship.
Yeah, and I have had calls where people were like, things were really good, and this was like our first big issue, and they just left. I don't understand it. So this can kind of show you that your partner shuts down, maybe retreats in difficult situations, or when they're faced with conflict. And so it can also help you see that your partner may not communicate well when things are challenging and there's a conflict.
Yeah, and for those of you with more insecure attachment styles, there may be things about the relationship that really do bother you, that really are complaints and that are getting to you, but you never bring them up because you want to keep the relationship harmonious, you want to keep it peaceful, you're afraid that if you bring it up, they'll either leave you or get mad at you, and so you end up bottling it up.
Yeah, which is never good.
Mm-mm.
Now, people with an anxious attachment style often are afraid to express their needs because they're afraid that the person will abandon them. Oh, if I tell them what I need and it's too much, they may feel like I'm too much and they'll leave me. Now, avoidants often don't want to sit with problems. They don't like to deal with the negative emotions, the complaints. They like to sweep things under the rug, and they sometimes suppress. They actively suppress because that's what they had to do to survive growing up. And so they're not used to having to deal with things in a way where it's communicating. They shut down, they put it away, they don't want to think about it, they don't want to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that we want to mention is that different families argue very differently. So your ex may have come from a family that maybe their arguing looks like slamming doors, maybe they're really passive aggressive, maybe they do the silent treatment to each other when they're upset and that's how they express their anger. Mm-hmm. And other families are really loud, like mine. My family is Italian and Puerto Rican, for those of you who don't know that already, but they are loud. Their talking voice is loud. They'll say, pass the salt, and it sounds like they're screaming at you. But we never did slam a door. In my family, we never slammed doors. That's when you were like really mad. But at my white friend's family's house, they would slam doors all the time. It's just interesting, but different families argue differently. So by saying that, I'm also saying that your ex has picked up habits from how they grew up of how to deal with conflict and what is normal to deal with conflict. Mm-hmm. So you might think that there has not been any issues. You might think that there have been no fights. But if we were to ask your ex, they might say, what are you talking about? Like, we've been fighting almost every day.
Yeah, you're like, what?
Yeah, or they might see the arguing as very different than you do, just because of how you grew up and culturally.
Oh, yeah, it can be very different. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, sometimes we'll hear somebody say, or a partner say, that I had no idea that you were even bothered by this particular thing. They may have said it in subtle ways. and they've been trying to tell you in a subtle way sometimes, and they get angry because they're like, no, I told you, but you weren't listening. And I think we did this in one of the cartoons on the course, right? I don't remember the example in the course, but I remember there was a cartoon that we did that it was like when somebody tries to tell you something, it's often something small, like, you know, you never go to the beach with me. And them saying that like that, it may feel like, oh, they just said it in that moment, but really they could be thinking about it every time they see a video of the beach.
Yeah.
He never takes me to the beach, and I keep telling him. I told him you never take me to the beach, but he doesn't do anything about it. So maybe they weren't able to articulate it by saying, hey, I would really like it if we went to the beach together. But they say it in a more subtle way that you have to be picking up on these cues.
Right. And normally by the time a partner tells you a complaint, they have been sitting with it and dwelling on it, thinking about how to tell you. Normally when you hear a complaint, you just hear the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just be aware of that. And our point in making this video is really to increase your awareness, to remind you to check in with your partner, and to remind you that conflict isn't necessarily a bad thing. So it's completely okay to fight. It's okay to argue. It's okay to disagree.
I disagree with that.
You know what? That's not okay. But as long as you learn how to fight.
I miss Coach Fly. He never argued with me.
Coach Fly.
For those of you that remember Coach Fly, Margaret and I were filming one day, and there was a fly that kept going by, and somebody remembered it. And one of my Instagram posts, they said, "Bring back Coach Fly."
Oh my God.
And I was laughing so hard. So that made me think of Coach Fly, because he didn't disagree with me like Coach Victoria does.
That's true. Coach Fly was so agreeable.
Although he would kind of get on your nerves sometimes, I will admit.
Coach Fly. So my point is that if we learn how to fight properly, if we learn how to argue, if we learn how to have conflict, then that can actually do the opposite. It can strengthen our relationship. We learn how our partner is different from us, and through that, we see them authentically and we can connect with them even deeper. It's kind of meta, but it does make sense if you do think about it. And it practically in relationships. You know, and even thinking about my own mom, you know, I was talking about me being Italian. My mother is Italian.
So was mine.
And she's very particular about certain things. And when I was young, we used to argue about things all the time. Put the hand towel a certain way on the bar, and don't let a drop of water hit the floor. And, you know, at first when I was a teenager, I was like, oh, Mom, I don't want to do all this stuff. But as I grew, you know, you learn the other person's intricacies. Okay, my mom is really bothered when I don't fix the hand towel. I'm just going to fix it for her as an act of love, you know. So think about these things from a different perspective. These little minuscule conflicts can actually bring deeper connection, can actually be a way of listening to your partner, showing them love.
Absolutely. You know, it's just difficult sometimes because when you're angry, you want to fight dirty. You lose emotional self-control. You lash out. You name call. You insult. You know, kind of say things like, well, you always do this, or you never do that, when it's not true, and you're kind of like blowing things out of proportion or making it worse than it really is, you know? And so you have to be aware of these things in the way that you're fighting.
And I'll end by giving you a little piece of John Gottman's research. He said that 69% of conflict is unresolvable. I don't know why it couldn't have been 70%. And I will make that joke every single time we present.
He worked really hard to keep it at 69.
I know.
He's affecting all the variables. No! I don't want to see that research. Get that out of here.
Yeah, right. He's canceling participants. That will mess with the numbers.
Oh, we can't count this guy.
But the point there is to say that there will be certain conflicts that just will never be resolved. And so it's more about managing them, learning how to live with certain things that you might disagree with. And it takes a lot of communication. And through conflict, you get to see how your partner does react under stress. It does give you a lot of information. So be aware, be compassionate to yourself and others.
And just keep in mind that a huge part of your partner's ability to communicate was rooted in their childhood and what they experienced. if they felt free to express themselves and their needs, or where they shut down and told, no, I'll give you something to cry about. I don't want to hear it. Go to your room. I'm sick of hearing you're complaining, stuff like that people feel like, it's hard to open up for those different reasons. So it's not easy to open up and express yourself and to make your needs met. Maybe you're afraid they'll leave, or if you do, or maybe you're just even afraid to bring it up because you couldn't even bring it up. So just because there wasn't any arguing doesn't necessarily mean there weren't things going on under the surface. So hopefully this has been helpful to you. And of course, if you want to get our help personally, you can get it on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Coach Victoria is also available for Skype coaching. I'm here if you'd like to chat. But Coach Fly is not available for any type of coaching at this time. We'll let you know if we bring him on board. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth. And I'm Coach Victoria. And we will talk with you soon.